Right now, an extraordinary legal shockwave is moving through Washington, and it is happening faster than anyone expected. Just hours ago, in a decision quietly posted but immediately confirmed through official court records, a high-stakes appeal tied to a politically explosive case was formally denied. The filing timestamp shows it was entered early this morning, just after business hours opened, and within minutes, legal analysts across the country began reacting with a single word: unprecedented. Here's what makes this moment so intense. The appeal wasn't routine. It was considered a last-ditch legal maneuver, a strategic move designed to delay, redirect, or potentially reshape the entire trajectory of the case. And now, with that appeal rejected, attention has suddenly shifted to one figure at the center of the legal storm: Melania Trump. Sources reviewing the filing say her next step, already hinted at in related legal motions, has stunned experts who expected a far more cautious strategy. This is not speculation. These are public court records, verifiable filings that anyone can look up and confirm. And before we go any further, subscribe right now and turn on notifications. You won't see this level of detailed breakdown anywhere else, because here's what you need to understand. This isn't just about one legal motion. It's about timing, strategy, and a move that could reshape how similar cases unfold in the future. Before anyone dismisses this as gossip or political noise, let's step back and look at exactly how things unfolded. The story actually began months ago when the original case entered a highly contested phase. At that time, legal observers described it as complex but predictable. Motions were filed, counter motions responded, and the process followed the familiar rhythm of federal litigation. Then something changed. According to court documents filed in late autumn, attorneys representing key parties introduced a series of procedural challenges, not to win immediately, but to create leverage. That's important, because in high-profile cases, leverage often matters more than speed. Here is exactly how things unfolded. First came the preliminary ruling, a decision that allowed core claims in the case to move forward. That alone triggered alarm bells among political observers because it meant discovery, depositions, and document production could soon begin. Next came the appeal request. This appeal was not about final judgment. Instead, it targeted procedural issues, arguing that certain legal standards had been applied incorrectly. Experts say this type of appeal is rare and difficult to win because appellate courts typically avoid intervening at early stages. Still, insiders believed the appeal might succeed, or at least delay proceedings significantly. But this morning, that expectation collapsed. The court's denial was concise, almost stark in its simplicity. No extended explanation, no dramatic language, just a formal rejection that effectively cleared the path for the case to continue at full speed. Stay with me, because what happened next is where things get truly explosive. Within hours of the denial, analysts noticed something unusual in related filings. A legal maneuver tied to Melania Trump that signals a far more aggressive strategy than anyone anticipated. Let's break down what actually happened. The first layer involves timing. Legal filings connected to her legal position were submitted almost immediately after the appeal denial appeared in the court system. That speed suggests preparation, meaning this next move was planned well in advance. And here's the kicker. Instead of retreating or requesting delays, the filings indicate a forward-leaning strategy, one that could potentially accelerate proceedings rather than slow them down. Experts describe this as highly unusual. Most legal teams, after losing an appeal at this stage, pivot toward defensive positioning, protecting evidence, minimizing exposure, and negotiating quietly. But this move appears to do the opposite. It signals readiness to confront the case head-on. This just got even crazier. What's going through your mind? Comment your honest take. Because the second layer of this story involves legal precedent. Former federal prosecutors reviewing the filings say the strategy mirrors tactics used in only a handful of high-profile cases over the past 2 decades. In those situations, the goal was not simply to win legally, but to control the narrative and timing of proceedings. And that brings us to the third layer: public perception. Legal experts emphasize that high-visibility cases operate in 2 arenas simultaneously: the courtroom and the court of public opinion. Moves that appear risky legally can sometimes provide strategic advantages politically or reputationally. Drop a comment right now if you saw this coming. Now let's talk about what the court's decision itself tells us. The denial of the appeal signals that the appellate panel did not see immediate legal error significant enough to halt proceedings. That doesn't mean they ruled on the merits of the case, only that they saw no urgent reason to intervene. But the consequences are enormous, because now the lower court retains full authority to continue forward. Things get absolutely explosive at this stage because discovery phases in cases like this often reveal internal communications, timelines, and decision-making processes that were previously hidden. Smash that like button if this is making sense so far. Here's another critical point. Legal analysts say the speed of today's developments suggests coordination between multiple legal teams and advisors. That level of coordination is typical only when stakes are extraordinarily high. And here's where the story takes another dramatic turn. Sources familiar with the situation say strategic discussions had been underway for weeks about how to respond if the appeal failed, which means today's move was not reactive. It was anticipated. If this blows your mind, hit that like button right now, because we're halfway through this explosive story, and the most important implications are still ahead. Now, let's examine what this means from a legal and political perspective. Here's what makes this situation even more significant. First, the denial establishes a procedural precedent that could influence similar cases. Legal scholars note that appellate courts send signals through decisions like this, signaling reluctance to intervene early. Second, the aggressive next step suggests confidence, either in legal arguments, evidentiary strength, or broader strategic positioning. Third, the timing coincides with an already intense political climate, meaning every legal development is amplified dramatically. According to analysts who study high-profile litigation, this combination, procedural loss followed by aggressive forward motion, often indicates a calculated risk designed to reshape momentum. Notice how this follows the same playbook seen in other historic legal battles. Instead of retreating after setbacks, parties escalate, shifting from procedural arguments to substantive confrontation. Here are 3 specific things to watch going forward. 1, the pace of court proceedings. If timelines accelerate, it confirms the strategy aims to resolve issues quickly rather than prolong uncertainty. 2, potential settlement signals. Sometimes aggressive legal moves are designed to force negotiation rather than trial. 3, public messaging. Statements released in coming days will likely reveal how both sides intend to frame today's developments. Pause for a second and hit the like button if you're finding value in this breakdown, because here's the deeper pattern experts are now pointing out. Major legal battles often hinge not on individual rulings, but on how those rulings shift leverage between parties. Today's denial changed leverage, and the response changed momentum. That combination is what makes this moment extraordinary. What does this mean historically? Legal historians say cases that pivot this sharply, from procedural uncertainty to accelerated confrontation, often become defining examples studied for years afterward. And we are watching one of those turning points unfold right now. Let's recap the key revelations. An appeal widely expected to delay proceedings was denied this morning. Within hours, a bold legal strategy emerged that stunned analysts. Experts say the move signals confidence, preparation, and a willingness to escalate rather than retreat. The implications could reshape timelines, negotiations, and possibly the outcome of the entire case. Stay with me, because what happens next could determine whether this moment becomes just another legal headline or a historic turning point. Because if the strategy succeeds, it may redefine how similar cases are handled in the future. If it fails, it could dramatically increase legal exposure. Either way, the stakes could not be higher. This is one of those rare moments when legal strategy, political impact, and public attention converge simultaneously. And we are still in the early stages, which means the next filings, hearings, and statements could bring even more explosive developments. Hit that subscribe button, because you won't want to miss what happens next. Your thoughts always make the conversation better, so share your perspective below, because one thing is certain: this story is far from over, and the next chapter could be even more extraordinary than what we witnessed today.